It's Wednesday, July 29, 2020. I'm on vacation. I've lost track of the days, but hey, that's why I'm here in my office. I guess you can call it an office. It's kind of like my hideaway here, Robert Harding is with us in his residence, and Justin Ritzel still in the basement after all these months. So, all right, guys, I've missed, well, of course, not like we work together anymore. I mean, really, this is the only time I see you guys are on these video chats here. So it is good to see both of you. We got some sports topics to talk about. Let's get to MLB right off the bat, pun intended. And as after last week's show, we found out that they increased the number of playoff teams from 10 to 16. We're going to discuss this quickly. I think we also should talk a little bit about Corona, the Marlins, but we'll talk about the playoffs first. 10 to 16, I love it. I think it's a great idea. This is not your ordinary year, obviously. There's only going to be 60 games, knock on wood. Do some things different. I mean, the runner on second base in the 10th inning. They're talking about 7-inning double headers now. Great. Something this year is literally, it is a freak year. Do crazy stuff. So yeah, increase the playoff teams. It's going to make more fun. We're not going to have that one game winner take all fluky wild card game. We're going to have 5-game series for the first round there. I like it better. I think it's going to create more drama. It's going to be a lot of fun. Justin, you go ahead, man. Talk about your thoughts on MLB going from 10 to 16 playoff teams.
More money.
Yeah, it always
say more money, more TV money. I kind of the resounding theme of sports at all this year for me is let's get weird. It's a weird year.
Yeah.
Weird stuff's going on in the world. What better time to try new things? I'm fine with it, and it gives my team a better chance to make the playoffs. So I don't have. If you were hoping for some strong take that this was stupid or whatever, I don't have it for you this week. No. But I do have some takes on the Marlins when we get to them.
Everything's out the window. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I think there's been chatter for years about baseball's playoff format, and there's purists like yourself, Mr. Shira, who say it's just right. And then there's more adventurous folks, of a certain younger generation, who would say, let's experiment with something else. And this is an opportunity. I mean, if COVID has given us anything, it's a chance to experiment with different things and figure out maybe there's a different way of doing things that might be better off for us. And when it comes to baseball and the playoff format, this is an opportunity for them to test it. Expanding from, in each league, expanding from, 5 teams, because you got 3 division winners and 2 wild cards, to now an 8-team format. I like it. I like the possibilities. I think it'll make the playoffs certainly more competitive. I know that folks like you, Chris, the anti-sabermetrics crowd, and the anti-change crowd will say that, this might increase the chance that some mediocre teams get in. Well, as long as you have the NL Central around, you're going to have mediocre teams in the playoffs. So I say, what the heck? Let's experiment with it and see where it goes.
Didn't I say I support this idea?
Which surprised me. But
I love it. It's great.
You're on vacation. I don't know what you're doing on vacation. You might be relaxing, whatever. But I expected something else from you. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Well, look, I've told you, and I discussed this the last time, that back in 1981, when there was a players' strike that went from mid-June to about the second week of August, baseball did something different where they declared the teams that were leading their divisions when the strike started were first half division winners. And then the second half of the season, which went from, I think, around August 9th or 10th through the end of September, those were second half winners. And the first half winners played the second half winners. And then those winners of those 2 series played for the pennant, and then we had the World Series. And nobody has ever said the Dodgers weren't worthy of being the World Series champions in 81 because they won in a strike shortened season. Now, obviously COVID is something different, but it's a shortened season. there's nothing wrong with doing different stuff. I mean, I'll tell you another quick story. 1982 season for the NFL, there was a strike. They only played 9 regular season games. Okay. Barely over half the season. Okay. They expanded the playoffs, and do people discount the Washington team's Super Bowl victory because there was a strike that year? No, absolutely not. So I think when you have situations like this, it is good to be creative and think outside the box and expand things and do different things. Great. That's going to serve Major League Baseball well. And I'm excited that they have games. I've been watching as many games as I can. I have MLB.TV, and I've been watching games, including the Arizona Diamondbacks with Tim LeCastro, although he barely played. And that's another rant we could go on at another time. But the big story in Major League Baseball so far has been the Miami Marlins. They have numerous players that have COVID, staff members, coaches. They are not playing any games for the rest of the week. It's affected the Phillies, who they were playing last weekend. There's a lot of talk that the Marlins, some of the players, they knew what was going on and they voted to play anyways, which is reckless. And if they find out who these players were, I think these players need to be fined or suspended, because literally they put other people's health at risk, and you can't have that. So MLB, to me, they've been fortunate in some ways and they've been foolish in others. And this is where the foolishness could really come back to bite them, because if we find out later this week, as these tests, it takes time for COVID to show up. I mean, they can be testing these Phillies players at the beginning of the week and they're all negative. Doesn't mean they don't have it already and they may not show it later. But if this thing spreads to other teams, Major League Baseball's season is really at risk. And I hope it isn't, because like I said, I really want to see this thing come through. But the Marlins, if it comes out that they knowingly took the field, knowing that these players had COVID or something was going on, then MLB needs to come down hard on them. Ownership on down. Derek Jeter, Mr. November there, they need to really come down hard on this. Robert, your thoughts about Miami and MLB and COVID so far?
Well, from the Marlins standpoint, Chris, you're right with the team and what they did. I mean, the reports about this, the fact that there were already a few tests and they played anyway, that was irresponsible. And then obviously it just snowballed from there, and really has our first full week into this truncated baseball season. We already have teams that have to adjust their schedules and teams that aren't playing, all because of what happened with the Marlins. But I think this is really this is a product of the MLB's failure to come up with a better plan. I wrote about this yesterday for The Citizen. You can find it on auburnpub.com about Governor Cuomo proposing, New York could be, kind of a bubble for MLB teams, because you look at it. The Marlins play in Florida. Florida is one of the worst states in the country right now for COVID. The Miami area, I'm not sure if you saw this graphic, Chris, because there was this graphic that came out about NFL teams in the markets where COVID is the worst. At last check, Miami was the worst area among these major professional sports cities. So, this is nothing to mess around with. And, if you're going to do something like this, you really need a smarter setup. I think the NBA and Ritz's boy, Batman, with the NHL, they've done it right. They have bubbles and they have strict testing guidelines in place. And that was before they started playing games. With the MLB, they had testing, but then they jump right into playing games. And I think and they're traveling around, they're playing in some of these places where you have COVID hotspots. It's just a wrong-headed approach. They should have figured out a way to do a bubble somehow. If you can find, if these other leagues can do it, and I know that people look at basketball and say, well, you're talking smaller rosters. Well, hockey teams aren't exactly small. Yeah. And somehow they're able to pull this off by having two cities, play host to it. So, find places where you can host these games. You're in the midst of the summer. We have plenty of baseball parks in New York. I know that there's other states that are less affected by this now that have the parks as well. I think that MLB really needs to really messed up here by letting this play out the way they did, because the worst case scenario happened.
Yeah.
A team had an outbreak, and that's shaken up the schedule.
Well, there was talk that the Marlins who got COVID didn't get it in Miami. They got it in Atlanta because that's where the team was at the end of spring training, that they were, there was talk. And again, this is not 100% confirmed, but I have seen some chatter that some of the Marlins players went out on the town in Atlanta before the season started. And supposedly that's where some of them might've caught COVID. So yeah, Miami's a hot spot. Florida's a hot spot. But Robert, I do agree with you about the bubble idea. And I think what Major League Baseball could have done, and again, I don't think, look, playing in New York is not feasible from the standpoint of, look what they got to do to Buffalo to get, the stadium there capable to host a Major League game. You have to do that in Rochester, Syracuse, and the biggest thing is going to be the clubhouse facilities too. So there's outside of the AAA ballparks in New York State, none of the other ballparks. Falcon Park is not hosting a Major League Baseball game. I'm sorry. It doesn't have the lighting. It doesn't have the clubhouse facilities. There's just no way. As much as I'd love to see it, it'd be great, but it's not going to happen. But if MLB was smart, they could have done the NBA thing at Disney World. There is a ballpark where the Braves used to have spring training at Disney World. Okay. I've been to that ballpark. The World Baseball Classic was played there. You could easily have that as an East Coast hub. And then you could have picked a spot in Arizona or California, and you could have the West Coast spot there. And you could have kept all the players at Disney World or this other California facility, whatever you want to call it. And you could have done a bubble in a way, and you could have had everything. Now it would have been different logistically, because you literally would be having games from like noon to midnight. But it could have been done. I really think it could have been done. But MLB wanted to continue. They use their own stadiums. But like I said, you get travel. This is what happens. When teams travel, they go to different cities. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have these COVID risks. Justin, I'm sorry we've been monopolizing here. It's your turn. Go ahead and talk about the COVID and the Marlins and everything.
Yeah, I'm just not at a point where I'm ready to say that MLB was stupid or that MLB was doomed because they decided not to go to a bubble format, because we have 30 teams in the league, and ultimately so far it's been one group of players on one team that acted irresponsibly. As far as we know, there's been no other team at the moment that is dealing with an outbreak of this virus. The last report was that the Phillies players, everyone has tested negative so far. So I'm just not ready to say that MLB was wrong in not going to a bubble format. Now, if the players are not going to take the rules seriously, and players are going out and exposing themselves, then yes, this is doomed to fail. But that's true even with the teams in the bubble. If Connor McDavid decides he wants to go out and have a couple sodas downtown Edmonton, then yeah, he's risking the rest of not only his team, but the entire Western Conference playoffs by doing that. At least the way MLB has done it, yes, the travel is a risk, but I think that if someone does break the rules, which obviously the Marlins have done here, then, well, that team is the one that's going to be in trouble, but there's still 29 other teams that have, as far as we know, been following the rules, getting their negative tests, not being decimated roster-wise due to this virus. So just listen, no one knows if MLB is going to play 60 games. No one knows if they're going to play 30 games. But before making drastic declarations that this is some giant failure, let's just wait and see how this plays out. The Marlins are basically taking this week off. MLB, if they want, I'm sure they can do double headers when they play these teams again. And that's for the Yankees and Phillies too, who I believe play again later this year. And if they can't make up those games, if the Marlins end up playing less than 60, or some of these other teams end up playing less than 60, then you just go by determining who makes the playoffs based off of winning percentage, because that's what the NBA had to do. They didn't get everyone playing the same amount of games. But that's just my main point is I urge patience before saying that this isn't going to work. it's the way MLB decided to go. There's positives to that and there's negatives to that. Let's see how it plays out. And just because the early returns for the NBA and NHL have been good and they haven't had positive tests, doesn't mean those ideas are gonna play out and work either. So let's just be patient. Hopefully the Marlins and Major League Baseball will use this as a learning experience, and the players will take these rules and these precautions more seriously, and we'll limit the amount of outbreaks that happen. But outbreaks were going to happen. We weren't going to go through a whole season with no one getting sick. Just let's wait and see. See how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I'll tell you this, Justin, the thing I've noticed watching some of these games is that, look, I understand the players do not have to wear masks in the dugout. The coaches have been doing it. The managers have been doing it. The trainers, umpires have been wearing masks, some in the field, but I still see players high-fiving. I still see spitting. Now, I get it. These are tough habits to break for these guys. I get it. I completely understand it. But to me, it's like, MLB has to do a better job enforcing the rules, saying if we catch you spitting, you're going to be fined. Okay. Maybe all players and everybody in the dugout should be wearing a mask. If you're out in the field, you can take the mask off if you want, but once you go into the dugout, everybody's wearing masks. Okay. Because I really think that that's where some of these things are going to happen. Or maybe I'll tell you this, maybe the only people in the dugout are the people actually playing in the game. And that if you're not in the game, you're not in the dugout, you're in the stands or something. Okay. I mean, we saw Tim LaCastro the other day. He wasn't playing. He was in the dugout. Okay. Maybe, those, if you're not in the game, you're in the stands. I think MLB could be doing more. And I think that if another team has a breakout, I think MLB is really going to have to, make some tough decisions and clamping down on behavior to prevent their season from going down. All right. Another season that's starting. NFL training camps are getting underway. We've discussed COVID in the NFL, but we're going to discuss the impact of the Jamal Adams trade. The cornerback went from the Jets to the Seahawks last week. And Justin, this was not my topic. This was Robert's idea. You're looking at me kind of strange, but anyways, Robert, his question was the impact on the Jets, and this, you're shaking your head. Okay. Maybe I misunderstood your body language there. The Jets and the Seahawks.
I think he's shaking his head because clearly you didn't read the email from this morning.
I thought I did. The impact on the Jets and the Seahawks, the Jamal Adams trade, right?
Well, I replaced that with the opt-out topic.
Oh, I did. See, I didn't check my work email because I'm on vacation. Okay. I did it yesterday.
Yeah, excuse me.
Well, Chris, yeah. I'm pretty sure you were on vacation Sunday or Monday when Robert sent out the initial email.
He did. So. I went on yesterday. I went through all my work emails and I deleted the ones that don't pertain to me. And I saw the one. I didn't know that he did an update this morning or whenever. But
we've been doing this video, whether it was live or on these Zoom calls. We've been doing this video for years. Okay. And every week, Robert sends out the email on Sunday night or Monday morning saying, here are the Citizen Weekly topics. And every week, over the course of the week, something happens and he sends out a secondary email saying, hey, actually, here's what we're going to talk about.
My bad. My apologies.
No one gives two craps about Jamal Adams or the Jets or the Seahawks. They're both dog franchises. He's a whiner. Okay. No one cares.
What was the replacement topic
then? The players opting out.
Players opting out. Okay. All right. Well, something, I don't blame any player for opting out in this year. Okay. Look, we all know the NFL is a league where social distancing is impossible. Okay. That I literally will bet $1 to donuts there will be positive COVID cases in the NFL sometime this season. It's going to happen, just like MLB. So if a player wants to opt out, completely understand it. It's their health. It's their family's health. Again, and no one should be critical of a player who opts out. Okay. I don't care who it is. Okay. I don't care how big a star it is, how great a player it is, how much money the player makes, whatever. Player wants to opt out, understand it, sympathize, and just say, hey, okay, that's the way it goes and move on. All right, Robert, your thought.
What a setup. I agree with you, Chris. I think that football poses different challenges than the other sports. First of all, with football, you're not going to have a bubble. So I get Ritz's point that he mentioned, in the last topic that, you don't know what these guys are going to do. Apparently, strip club chicken wings are a popular hors d'oeuvre for certain athletes that like to skip out of the bubble. But hopefully players are smart and, show some responsibility and understand the risk and don't spread it around. But with football, a situation like you have with the Marlins could definitely blow up if the players aren't buying in and saying, you know what, not only do we have this testing, but there's strict rules that we have to follow on our own. We have to hold ourselves accountable to prevent this from not only harming ourselves and our families, but other players and their families, because that could really become a problem. And all you need is one case for it to turn into an outbreak for two teams. And that's obviously not ideal. In terms of the players that have opted out, Nate Solder he just put out a statement not too long ago, Giants offensive lineman, and he says he's opting out. He's had his own health issues. I think he said he has a son that has cancer, so he has to be really careful because cancer is one of the comorbidities with COVID-19 that you're at an increased risk, because you have a weakened immune system. So that's something that that was his reasoning for it. There's other players. I know that there's at least one Buffalo Bill that's opted out. I don't know if that list has grown today, but I know of one. There's other players. There's a bunch of Patriots that have opted out. So, I think players, especially given this sport, they realize what the risks are, and they're kind of doing this cost benefit analysis. Is it worth the risk? That not only for myself but for my family and for, I think it's a couple dozen players already. The answer to them is that it's not worth the risk. They're not playing, and all the power to them. I think that they're making a smart decision based on their situation, and I guess they're going to give the players until sometime in the next week or two to make their final decision. But wouldn't be surprised if that list is quite long at the end of the day.
Yeah, and before I let Justin talk, I've seen a lot of amateur conspiracy theorists saying that the reason why a lot of these Patriots are opting out is because the team wants the tank to get a quarterback next year. In other words, Mr. Lawrence from Clemson. What a bunch of garbage that is. That really irked me. I'm like, are you people that stupid? Really? Come on.
Do you think Bill Belichick needs a quarterback to win? Come on.
I know.
Come on. He had that bag of bones Brady last year and still led that team into the playoffs. Do you think he cares whether he has a quarterback or not? He just signed Cam.
I know, that's
Newton.
the thing. Why do you sign Cam Newton then? I mean, why, if they're tanking, why do they sign Cam Newton? It just, like I said, just pulls me away. All right, Justin, go ahead.
Who's floating this conspiracy theory? These dolphin hounds that trashing the AFCs.
He gets trolled by some Dolphin fans, and all of a sudden, all the Nimrods on NFL Twitter are Dolphin fans. Come on, man, please.
Oh, right, it's true. It's true.
Okay, go ahead, Justin.
I'll tell you what, the Dolphins franchise has opted out for about 20 years since Dan.
Hey, I think the Packers GM opted out of the draft this year when he drafted a quarterback with his first round pick and traded up to do it, by the way. But I digress.
Hey, that quarterback has two good hips. Watch your mouth.
Oh. Go ahead.
Chris, I can't, listen, this is for another discussion. I've shared my thoughts on the Jordan Love pick.
Yeah, I know.
But you don't know squat about if Jordan Love's going to be good any more or less than I do, or any more or less than the GM does. So I'm going to save that little snippet. So if he does happen to start over the next couple of years and lights it up, then maybe you should opt out of your Green Bay Packers quarterback takes.
All right. You want to talk about? Yeah, go ahead.
It is funny that the Patriots have been the one team that's been hit the hardest by these opt-outs so far. I agree there's going to be more. So far, really looking at all the teams, the biggest star, I guess, that's opted out is probably Dante Hightower, but no starting quarterbacks yet. no real star players as of yet. Obviously, if they opt out, they have more to lose because they're the ones getting set to get paid the most.
Yeah.
I'll be curious. I have to imagine it's going to happen, but some starting quarterback is going to opt out and not play this year. And I'll be curious to see how that, whatever team that happens to, how they decide to approach the upcoming season. I look at just to throw a name out there, and there's been no suggestion that he will opt out, but I know Russell Wilson just had a child with his wife, Sierra. Not sure if Chris knows who that is, but
she's a singer. I'm aware who she is.
Well, that's good. At least you're aware of something in today's day and age. Pop culture related, not in general, not to insult you, but
no, not at all. Not to insult me. Go ahead.
But yeah, I wonder, someone like him, is he going to say, maybe I won't play this year. I have a child that I need to be worried about. There's got to be countless other players who are in similar situations. So we'll see what happens. Football's going to look different this year. I hope the NFL has plans in place as far as team meetings during the week when the season does get underway and teams are preparing, because the last thing you want is to have one position group on a team get totally decimated by COVID, and suddenly you're looking at a team starting their entire backup offensive line for 2 weeks, trying to protect, these star quarterbacks, or just a situation like that. I'll be curious to see how the NFL tries to put precautions in place to prevent those scenarios, or maybe they won't, and they're willing to live with the risks of not being cautious. Interesting times for the NFL. I still say I think the league will start on time. I think a bunch of games will be played, but I don't think all of the games will be played as scheduled. We'll see what happens.
I agree with you 100%, Justin. The fact that they're not doing the exhibition games means no travel. So that'll help them out. All right. Well, in the original email I got, the last topic was the NHL. Has that changed?
That has not changed.
That has not changed. All right. Well, of course, the topic I probably know the least about, the NHL, they are getting going again. And I will be watching games. I saw the schedule. There's going to be games literally from noon to midnight on NBC Sports Network. So I will be watching some of these games, no doubt about it. I love playoff hockey. To me, is one of the coolest things in all of sports. Okay. I love the first weekend of the NCAA basketball tournament. I love the first round of the Major League Baseball playoffs. You got to love wild card weekend and divisional playoff weekend in the NFL. And to me, the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup final, is without a doubt one of the coolest things in all of sports. So I will be watching these games. Now, Robert asked us, who is going to win the Stanley Cup? Okay. Now, again, I don't know much about hockey. I don't follow the league on a regular basis like these guys do, the Sabres fan and the Ducks fan. Of course, both their teams, I believe, are not resuming play. I believe they're both done for the season. So, oh, well, maybe next year, guys. But that being said, when I was an active hockey fan back in the 80s, the team that I rooted for was the New York Islanders. And, they're a solid team this year. And they have a coach, Barry Trotz, who took the Capitals a couple of years ago to the Cup and won it in a surprise type season. And let's not to say that history can't repeat itself. So I like the Islanders to go to the Stanley Cup final and win it. And I have them beating the Blues. I even picked a Western Conference champion. I think the Blues are going to get back. I like the Islanders to beat the Blues in the Stanley Cup final. You can ridicule me all you want, Robert and Justin. I know I'm not the puckhead you guys are, but what the heck? Islanders, Blues, the Islanders reclaiming Long Island glory after almost 40 years. Go ahead, gentlemen.
The only place you're going to see the Islanders win the Stanley Cup is on your 1984 VHS tapes. That team, they just don't have the talent to match up with many of these other Eastern Conference teams. That's a pipe dream, Chris, for your childhood hockey team. Barry Trotz or not. Listen, when Barry Trotz won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago, he had a guy who was on pace to break Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record. No no disrespect to some of the Islanders players because they do have a couple talented guys, but it's a little different scenario.
All right.
Listen, I can't decide what teams are going to be at an advantage or a disadvantage because the playoff format is so weird. Part of me leans toward, because first off, maybe we should give a little explainer of how this format's working out. So the top 4 seeds from each conference are going to play a round robin to determine seeding. But obviously, home ice is a non-factor like it normally would be since there's no fans at the bubbles. So that those round robin games are more or less to get teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Bruins, the Blues, just to get them kind of warmed up. So that way they're not going into these playoff games that really mean something. They're not going in cold versus the qualifier teams, which have been, I've played 4 or 5 games already. So top 4 seeds, let's just say for argument's sake. So they basically get a first round bye. Then the next 8 teams in each conference are playing in a qualifier round. It's a best of 5, which they haven't done in hockey in a long time. And the interesting wrinkle for these qualifier teams is that all the teams that lose in this qualifying round will have a chance at the number 1 draft pick because the NHL decided to do this wild format for the draft lottery, and a random team in the qualifier round is going to have the number 1 pick. So if you're the Montreal Canadiens, for example, you probably don't have a shot in hell at winning your playoff round or winning the Stanley Cup. Oh yeah, we'll tank our qualifying round series for a chance to land the hometown kid, Lafreniere, with the first overall pick. Yeah, sure. So that's going to be interesting. I tend to think that the Stanley Cup is going to be won by one of the teams that is the top 4 seeds. I probably would have picked Boston, but the Bruins seem to be having some roster issues because a couple players didn't take their time off very seriously and might have gotten themselves exposed. The NHL's leading goal scorer, for example, David Pastrnak, has not returned to the ice yet. I like the Philadelphia Flyers. Hottest team in the NHL before the break happened. Talented roster. I think they can match up with any of the other teams in the East. They had a good showing head-to-head against many of the other teams in the East, I think, aside from the Bruins. I like the Flyers to come out of the Eastern Conference, and I think the Blues will get back. They seem like the most well-rounded team. They were humming before COVID hit. So I'll take a Blues-Flyers final with the city of brotherly love capturing Lord Stanley.
All right. Robert, your picks?
Wow. Well, it's rare that I agree with Ritz on anything except every debate against Chris. But on on the playoff predictions, he hit it on the head. I think for me, Philadelphia out of the East, they were the hottest team at the time of the shutdown, and they're I think in this format, given everything, obviously they're going to be competing for, top seeding, and then, obviously it gets more into the traditional format from there. I think they're a team that's really built to do that out East. The competition out East, I think, is, it's definitely a crapshoot because you do have the Bruins, but as Justin pointed out, they have some of their own issues. You've got a team like Washington, obviously, with Ovechkin and the experience of winning the cup recently. So, Philly for me, just well-rounded, along the blue line. They got some great scorers up front. I think they'll come out of the East. Out West, look, Blues are the best team in hockey. This team just has all of the pieces put together. I think they'll get back, and this is where I will differ with Ritz. I say the Blues win the cup. As much as Philly would love an underdog story in front of no fans, like a Miami Dolphins game, I think the Blues will win the cup.
All right. We're going to wrap it up, guys. And sorry about the little mix up on the topics. Next time I'll check my email the morning of the video, just in case.
We need a good host. We need a Bob Sosi. That guy studies hard, all this other stuff. You can't even check your damn email. I mean, come on.
All right. I'm on vacation. You check your work email every day when you're on vacation. Be glad I did yesterday. So, all right. All right, guys. It is good to see both of you, and it's been fun. And we'll wrap it up. Enjoy baseball this weekend or this week. NHL, NBA coming back too. So we're kind of getting a little bit back normal in some ways. But let's just hope good luck continues and that we're COVID free basically, and that there's actually games being played because we did miss them. So, all right, folks. We'll see everybody next.